Word, we're live. Haha. Hello and welcome to the Global Game Jam. We're here with some friends representing NextNav. I'm Tom Badger. I'll be your host. And like I said, we've got some friends here from NextNav. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Ben Ball, and I'm the head of marketing at NextNav.
Hey guys, this is Deepak Joseph, and I look after product management at NextNav.
Awesome, cool. So we kind of got like both sides, the like technical side of NextNav, and then how do we actually get it out there, which is exactly what we're going to do here. We'll kind of break it down, what's going on with NextNav and how you guys can take it home, and even why you guys would want to do something like that. And I think this is a perfect opportunity, guys, here at Global Game Jam, because yesterday I spent a lot of time talking to developers on the creative side of things. We talked to a lot of designers that have, had a success story or whatnot. A lot of it was kind of like, rubbing chins and staring into the distance about creative conversation. But games is the intersection of creativity and technology. And you really need the engine, and not just the engine, but you really need stuff under the hood, so to speak, to drive that creativity. Here with NextNav, you guys have vertical location. I think people might be a little bit familiar with location services. But Ben, why don't you break down a little bit about what makes NextNav kind of unique in this space?
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having us. We're really excited about this. And actually, the theme of the Game Jam this year, Lost and Found, is absolutely perfect for what we're doing right here. We're all familiar with location. I mean, we've all, used an app on our phone that has a 2D map, right? A flat map. But if you think about an urban area, it's not very useful, actually, in an urban area to have that flat map. You'd sometimes really like to figure out what's going on inside a building, underground, other places like that. So that's really what we're about here at NextNav, is we enable that third dimension, that vertical dimension, to be used by game developers and anyone else, actually. So just, to put it in context, we've put together a couple of slides here that sort of demonstrate it. So, you're playing Pokemon Go in the middle of San Francisco. You're looking for a Pikachu. Can you find it using today's technology? Well, right now, if you're looking for a Pikachu at the Salesforce Tower, the tallest building in San Francisco, go to the next slide and you'll see what you can see right now, which is there's a building there, but your mapping application doesn't know where you are in that building, if at all. So it just appears as this flat thing, even though the Salesforce Tower is gigantic. So if you go to the next slide, then you'll see, basically what you'd be able to see if you use NextNav's capability, which is you can find a Pikachu on a specific floor, and you can distinguish that floor from any other floor in the building as well. So, you can be in the Starbucks on the ground floor, or you can be at the restaurant on the top floor, and anywhere in between, and find that Pikachu wherever you want. So if you think about that from a gaming perspective, that's really interesting. Because it basically expands the market for any game in an urban environment. I mean, right now, if you want to play Pokemon Go in an urban area, you're restricted to public spaces, right? You have to be out on the street in a park where there's nothing above you. Most cities just aren't like that. I mean, you think about downtown Manhattan, that means that most of downtown Manhattan is basically off limits for games. Vertical location changes. It opens up a whole new realm of possibilities, from treasure hunts in tall buildings to finding all sorts of things. That's again why Lost and Found is such a great theme for this capability. So if you just go to the next slide, you'll see how we make this available to game developers. Right now we offer an SDK. We also offer a Unity plugin. That's a relatively new capability for us. And very soon we're going to be offering it as an API as well. So we're pretty excited about this. We think the creative possibilities here are endless. And it's going to open up whole new worlds of gaming. So we're really excited to be here and really excited to see what people do with this. We're really happy to be a differentiator in this year's Game Jam. So yeah, welcome your questions.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love how you. So I am a city boy. I'm from New York. I live in Atlanta now, and
Right.
so I have absolutely. I That's a real life application for me. Where like when a couple of these AR games came out, and they were all about it was like, okay, so is it up on the belt line? Is it down here? You know, you're sitting
Right.
here playing. It's just that, yeah, you absolutely need this as we move forward because like you referenced the Pokemon Go, and then there's what was it, Ingra, and like that's it. And I feel like some of these games are limited. Sometimes we talked yesterday with some of the more creative folks about like feasibility, where you have this great idea, but feasibly you can't really translate that. This adds another instrument to the orchestra, so to speak. And I want to talk really briefly about the technical side of things down there.
Yeah.
So this, brand new, this is perhaps not like bleeding edge technology, but it's seemingly brand new what's the word? Not implication, but injection here into this sort of world. So going from a 2D world into like a vertical, how were you able to leapfrog some of the technical hurdles that presented themselves thus far?
Yeah, it's a really good question. This is something that has been in the works for a really long time, and people have been asking for this for a long time. Because if you think about it, it's kind of weird that there are only 2 dimensions in the maps on your phone right now. Didn't anybody think about this before? People have definitely thought about it, but it's a pretty difficult technical challenge to overcome. But NextNav, I mean, we've been working on this problem for a decade. And it was only recently that all of the different technical pieces kind of came together because it required some hardware that had to make its way into phones. It required some hardware out and about in cities, which we've now stood up and is actually live and working today, and required a bunch of partner relationships that we had to work out. But literally just in the last month or two, all of these pieces came together, and it's just perfect that the Game Jam is happening right now because we're just rolling out this technology, across the country, and it's really exciting to see. So it's been a long time coming, but now the technical pieces are all there, and we're really excited to see how people are going to use it.
All right, so now we've got this awesome toolbox, and we'll dive into it a little bit more so than nitty gritty. But I've got it. Awesome. NextNav here. It's at my disposal for me to use. Now I got to figure out how to use it, right? We've talked a little bit about like some Pokemon Go application, Lost and Found brings some interesting thoughts. Where would you guys start? What would your sort of like popcorn thoughts be as far as like what games might be able to use vertical location?
Yeah. So, my partner is a huge gamer, and he's really into these survival games. There's one called This War of Mine that's based on the Yugoslav conflict, where you have to go and survive by finding food and warding off enemies and things like that. That's a perfect thing for vertical location. If you think about it, that means, because the essence of vertical location is that you're getting up and doing things, right? You have to actually go somewhere to make it worthwhile. So you can hide things in various places and get people to go and find them. Again, sort of that treasure hunt idea, or it can be a survival game where you have to leave your house every day to go find food, for example, and the food is a virtual piece of food that's actually hiding in the school library, or down in a subway station somewhere. So that's just one example of how you can integrate it into a game.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of possibilities out there. I think that's it is always the most fun, I feel like, when new technology comes out and you don't immediately know everything of what you're going to do with it, right? Like people say like motion controls, you're like, yeah, I know. Okay, I'm going to drive, I'm going to play baseball, I'm going to bowl. But like you go, okay, I don't know the possibilities. And I think that's fun. That's one of the most exciting parts about like being in this industry, is that we're continuously, we've got this artistic medium, but as technology comes through, we can keep like pushing it further and further. But it is challenging. And so we've talked a little bit about the challenges to create the technology, and we've talked about the creative sort of endeavors that we can take. So now actually push comes to shove, doing the work. I want to put vertical location into my game. How difficult is that?
Yeah.
What's that process like?
Well, I would say that it's easy, but Deepak knows all the technical pieces of that, so I'm going to turn that question over to him.
Yeah, so thanks, Ben and Tim. So in general, we've of course spent a lot of time thinking about how to make it as easy as possible to integrate this capability into games and mobile apps, broadly speaking. Which is why, as Ben was saying earlier, we've got a few different ways in which developers can integrate. We of course have the Unity plugin, which makes it easier for that platform. We're looking at other game platforms, and those will come in later this year. We, of course, have the native mobile for Android and iOS SDKs. And in general, we've worked with app partners already. Then from their integration experience, it's really like a half a day type of effort to kind of drop in the SDK. Because what we've done is of course, there's many modes in which the SDK can run. And we've kind of got this, out of the box automated delegated mode that we call it, essentially. So any host app can simply drop in this plugin or SDK and simply say, hey, give me altitude. And then the SDK goes and takes care of all the things that it needs to do to generate the altitude. And of course, the host app can say, give me altitude every second, every 30 seconds, every minute or so. So there are a few modes. And of course, for more advanced, let's say developers, or as developers get more familiar with the SDK, they can control it a lot more by saying exactly what they want it to do. But at the simplest level, in order for someone to just play with it, we've kind of got this delegated mode where you simply drop it in and say, give me altitude. And then, of course, it gives you this altitude. So from at least our experience with working with some of the developers so far, really the effort to put the SDK in and get altitude out of it is actually almost trivial. I mean, I don't want to say it's very trivial, but I mean, it takes some work, but it's really pretty straightforward to get in there. But I think, Tim, as you highlighted before, and as Ben was giving some ideas, it's really about once you get that altitude, what do you do with that within the context of the game? How do you get that into the scene or the gameplay? If it's a multiplayer game, how do you move this between devices? I mean, it's all of those that obviously is going to consume a lot of both creative energy as well as kind of the development effort that the app, developer or the game developer has to go into doing. At least from just integrating and getting the core altitude data, that we've made it as simple and as easy as possible. But we fully recognizing that a lot of the heavy lift is on part of the game developers to really think about all the other pieces in terms of what's unique about their game and how this can add value and how some unique gameplays can come out of this capability.
I just want to highlight what you've got on the screen right now. That the altimeter feature, which is what you see here, is really unique. This is something that NextNav has pioneered, which basically shows you how high up you are in any given space. And you can see there that the way we've created it, you can show if it's a multiplayer game, you can see where other people are as well. It's like inside a building, how high up they are in relation to you, which I think is a really interesting thought in terms of how gameplay actually comes into being.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. There are so many applications that I'm sure everybody at home, I kind of look at this sort of like, I speak in metaphors, I apologize. But like, it's kind of like cooking where like, you're an intermediate cook and here you're given a new ingredient and it's up to you guys at home. If you know how to cook it, we can figure it out. Implementing the SDK is not that difficult. You guys do that. That's all the hard work that you guys have done on your end. Awesome. Now I have access to this. I can go ahead and take my stuff from point A to point B and level up in the kitchen and cook some good games. So I think that's really awesome that you guys have kind of brought that to the table, allowing everybody to kind of, dig deep, like you said, on the surface, just drop the SDK in, you can figure it out, Unity, etc., and it just works. But then as you spend time with it, you'll figure out more things to not only creatively do with it, like you said, but also technically figure out. So I think this is really cool, kind of a nice overview. Is there anything that we missed that you want to make sure that kind of everybody understands before we drive it home?
I think one thing that we also include in the package is a test app. So you can actually look at it on your phone and kind of experience it. I think that's what we found is that when people experience it, then the creative juices really start to flow. They actually start to figure out, okay, this is how I can integrate this into a game or an app. So I just encourage people to go, get the package, look at that test app, and just play around with it, really. Hold your phone up in the air, hold it down by the ground, go up a flight of stairs and just experience it. And then I think that's going to get people thinking about how they can put it into games.
Awesome. Completely agree. Last bit, this is the shout out, right? This is your marketing spot. Tell us where we can go to get NextNav, input it into our game, and move on to the next level, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's at that website that's on the screen right there, info.nextnav.com/Pinnacle Developer Key. You can also find that on the Game Jam homepage right now. We've got it listed in the differentiators section. It's also available just straight on our website. You can navigate to that same page through there. Fill out the form, tell us which version you want, whether it's the plugin, the SDK, and we'll get it right to you and get you playing around with it.
Awesome. Very exciting. I think a lot of people at home are kind of interested to get their hands on some of the games that might come out with this. And of course, I think the people involved in the Game Jam and the ones that are thinking about the next Game Jam are excited to get their hands on it to make some cool things. But one more time, thank you so much for the guys from NextNav. Thank you so much for your time. Great having you here. Great having NextNav here, and hopefully we'll see NextNav in some of the games in the rest of the weekend. But that does it for us in this segment. We've got more interviews on the stage coming. Stay tuned for some more info from the Global Game Jam.
Thanks for having us.